there's a lot that shows up as a result of a blocked crown chakra that can also feel like abandonment from God, disconnection from God. And we can reawaken this, we can reopen this chakra anytime. It's going to be at its best when the other chakras are open as well, of course, but this is available to us all the time, at any time. First lesson in my Reiki masterclass was to remember that a Reiki master, and essentially really all of us, we know nothing. So in acquiring all of this knowledge, understanding that we still likely don't fully understand everything. The more we understand, the more there is to understand. Welcome to the Energy Within podcast, helping you to embrace your weird, embody who you really are, and take action on your soul's purpose. My name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master teacher, a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys, and this is episode 191, and we have made it to the crown chakra. I think I mentioned back in the beginning that I keep learning that there are essentially a multitude of other chakras beyond these, but these are considered all the way through the crown chakra, our in-body chakras, kind of the main chakras that affect the most things as far as a physical sense, but of course they also get into emotional and spiritual. The other chakras start getting into areas in our aura and other minor points around the body, but as far as the blanket overall energetic coverage, these are our main in-body chakras. And the crown chakra is basically our connection to the divine. And it does not matter to me what word you use. For me, it has been and always will be God. But if you just like to say the divine or even the universe, some people say source or spirit, you insert whatever makes sense for you. But this is our connection to the divine here through our crown chakra. So if this chakra is blocked, this is when we can have those feelings like we're disconnected from God. Maybe you'll run into those thoughts of God's abandoned me, He doesn't love me, He's testing me, He's punishing me, or even flat out believing that there is no divine, that God doesn't exist. I'm not here to sway you on what your beliefs should be, so don't take any of this that way. But I do believe that it most likely indicates a blocked crown chakra, and that if we were to work on opening that connection, that belief might change. My experience has been I've always felt connected to God. It's only strengthened since going on this journey and learning Reiki and connecting more to my intuition, having Jesus as my Reiki master guide when I do sessions, and then the experiences that my clients have had in either seeing Jesus in a new way that brings them closer to Him, allows them to invite Him into their lives, or just allows them to feel more of His love. That's just strengthened everything for me too. So I always really love getting that feedback, especially in the instances where I haven't said a word about it and they start telling me what they experienced during the session and it involves Jesus. That's always amazing to me. But this is really the ultimate goal, I think, not just in spirituality, but in religion and any sense of a spiritual journey. We're all trying to reach enlightenment. We're all trying to feel that strong connection to God. And this is what we're doing on that journey, is making our way up through the chakras, all the way up to the crown, to really feel and let in that connection. And I know for me personally, my signal that I'm connected and or that I'm getting a yes to a question that I've asked is I will feel like a buzzing sensation in my crown. So your signals may be very different. There's no right or wrong. That's just something that I've picked up on that's kind of cool. So to jump right into this, a too open crown chakra can look like psychotic or manic depressive, confused sexual expression, frustrated, and a sense of unrealized power. I'm not sure exactly how to interpret that last part, but I feel like it may be that feeling that you're meant for more, but you can't figure it out. Take it how you will. That's what I am kind of getting from it. Blocked, you're going to feel constantly exhausted. And I wonder if there's probably a difference, but maybe not, between just being constantly exhausted because you're a mom and you have a kid who won't go to bed at a decent time. Or I don't have this problem much anymore, but maybe a newborn or just a child who wakes up multiple times in the night. I'm lucky so far, knock on wood, that we've reached a point where for the most part, our kids are sleeping through the night now. We're just working on bedtime itself. But I've heard stories from other moms whose kids are in the same range as mine and they still wake up every night. So much love to you if you are in that situation. So it may not, in all cases of feeling constantly exhausted, mean that your crown chakra is blocked. But on the same token, it could help perhaps. Obviously, we need the right amount of sleep. We still have a human body to take care of. It needs decent sleep in order to function properly. But also adding in things like this could potentially help with the level of fatigue. If you're in a period of life where you're not getting or not able to get a lot of sleep. Just a thought, not a guarantee. But it also can look like not being able to make decisions, having no sense of belonging. I know I have definitely felt that in periods in my life. A balanced chakra is going to look like a magnetic personality, achieving miracles in life, transcendent, and at peace with yourself. I have so much to say on all of these topics. I thought this was probably going to be a short one, and the more I've been reading here and the more I've been thinking, I think it's going to be the same length as the other ones. So settle in, grab a cup of coffee or something, or some tea or some water, whatever you drink. Achieving miracles in life. I wanted to talk about that one because the first thing that came up for me when I read that was I believe there's 12 laws of the universe. I didn't go ahead to look them all up right now, but I believe there's 12 universal laws, and you've most likely heard of the law of attraction. I don't know all of them by any means off the top of my head. I can only think of a couple. I think there might be a law of reciprocity. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. I do know I was reminded through listening to Logan Orihuela's podcast, Wild, that there is a law of genders, which has nothing to do with whether you are male or female. We all have masculine and feminine energies within us that need to be balanced. Balance does not mean 50-50, but we're not going to get into that. But there's also the law of assumption, which to me is what this specifically relates to, achieving miracles in life. Miracles is in quotes in this book. And if you have jumped onto this one without listening to any of the others, the two books that I'm referencing a lot are the Book of Chakra Healing by Liz Simpson and the complete book of Chakra Healing by Cindy Dale. And I don't think I've linked either of these books in any of the show notes, so maybe I'll finally try to remember to do that. But you can find them on Amazon, most likely. I know I got the Book of Chakra Healing on Amazon. I would expect that the complete book of Chakra Healing is probably on Amazon too, but I actually picked it up in store in half-price books. So like I said, miracles is in quotes in the Book of Chakra Healing. And I find that interesting because there's more to talk about here in what the rest of the book says, but it made me think specifically of the law of assumption. And I can't give you like a full masterclass on it. I don't know a ton about it. I only recently learned about it and have been working as often as I remember to try to embody what that feels like for me. And it's really hard to explain without also worrying that people are going to take it wrong. And I want to say it's in the solar plexus episode where we defined what power really means, and that it's more of a personal power taking control of your own life and the things that you are able to be responsible for, rather than power in the way people think of it, where you have power over someone else or something else, that you're controlling things outside of you. In one sense, I guess that's kind of what the law of assumption is saying, because it's kind of this energy of, I always get whatever I want. But there's the balanced, spiritually involved way to embody that, and there's the ego way to embody that. So maybe I won't dive too much into it without reading the rest of this to you. And I also have a few more things to read out of the other book too that I want to mention that have sparked some ideas for me. But so we've been talking about these archetypes that are referenced in the book of chakra healing with each chakra. And here with the crown, it's the guru and the egocentric. Stay with me for a second, because the first thing said about the egocentric is here. It says, a common expression of the egocentric is, I make my own luck. And what's interesting about that for me is with the law of assumption, believing that it's basically I create my reality. I am the creator of my life. I am the creator of my reality. And here, the egocentric being kind of the unbalanced archetype of the crown, here saying I make my own luck is meant in the sense of disconnected from the divine, completely focused on the human 3D reality and very materialistic, that success means acquiring material things. However, like I was starting to get into, it says success and spirituality are not mutually exclusive. It is okay to be a spiritual being and to be successful. It's kind of always been looked at or pushed that it's more spiritual to not be successful, not have all the material things, not have all the wealth. But I really do think it's okay, because there's also this other idea that I believe to be a truth, that abundance is our birthright. But the balanced version, the guru, understands that while there's nothing wrong with acquiring all the materialistic things, that there's nothing wrong with believing that you create your own reality, that there's nothing wrong with acquiring the material things, that there's an understanding that it is co-creation with God. There's a letting go in the midst of this controlling your own reality. It's so hard to explain, but there's a letting go within that control. It's the not getting attached while at the same time aligning yourself with the frequency of what you want. And also being at a level where you are so at peace with yourself that while you enjoy the material success at the same time, you also have your spiritual success, which takes you to a level of understanding that you can have fun with the material stuff, but you don't ultimately need it. Your happiness, your spiritual journey, your ability to love and be loved, none of that is dependent upon the material success. So while it's okay to acquire that kind of success, you're also matching that with your spiritual success so you could still thrive and be happy and be fulfilled without all of the material things. Hopefully that makes sense. It's an understanding that there's a balance. It's, I always get what I want, but it's because you know in a spiritual sense, who you really are. And what that is, for all of us, is a piece of the divine, a piece of God, a literal piece of God. That is my belief in how we are all one, how we are all connected. It's more than being just brothers and sisters and having the same creator. If it makes more sense to you that way, to think that it is brothers and sisters, if that's what you wholeheartedly believe, that is perfectly okay. Please run with that. The main thing is that we have the understanding that we are all connected. We are all one. We are all from the same source, no matter how you view that. And because of that, we are allowed our birthright of abundance. We thrive in maintaining that connection to God, to the divine, so that we can create the life that we want. And at the same time, because we are a spiritual being having a human experience, not the other way around, we can align ourselves with the frequency of what we want. We can call in, we can say things like, I create my own reality, I always get what I want, but from a place that's trusting that we are co-creating, and from a place that can be detached enough from all the specific details of how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, why it's going to happen, who's going to be involved. We let it unfold the way that it is divinely meant to unfold without trying to manipulate every tiny little detail. That's where it's the egocentric, where it's disconnected from the divine, where we as the human are trying to take full control over everything. We need to open up the crown, have that open connection to allow God, to allow our higher selves that's connected and existing with God at the same time, because it's a piece of God, to step in and guide us in the way that's going to help everything unfold for your highest good. And I hope that's not getting or sounding too woo-woo. I hope that makes as much logical sense as it needs to. There's a balance between the logic and the spiritual woo-woo stuff. I believe we need both. And balance, again, does not always have to be 50-50. In fact, I don't think I told this story on the podcast. I think I only told it in my Instagram stories. So if you missed it in the 24-hour period, you don't know what happened. So this is a real tiny example of this law of assumption at work, but I think it's perfectly valid. I did this law of assumption training. I don't know if it's still available. It was with Andrea Franco, who is kind of like a spiritual business mentor type of thing. She's awesome. She's very bold, has a very big personality, but I also think she's a very sweet and caring person at the same time. Is if you don't mind the F-bombs and the real big energy. So if you think that might be for you, I think she's a great one to learn from. You could go check her out. I don't know her website. I'm assuming I think it's AndreaFrancoXO.com, but you can look her up and see if that's still available, or at the very least, if it's still available at the price that I got it for, which was pretty cheap. She usually raises the price after the live event. But anyway, I had just taken the training with her and had really decided that I was going to do my best to shift into this energy, because I could feel this shift coming anyway. I'd kind of been pushed in this direction kind of since taking another training with her prior to that, like a week or two prior. But we get to this one, really settle in with it, and the next day I had a vendor fair, and this thing was supposed to start at 10. I got there in time. I got all set up, only to realize that despite having made sure at the previous vendor fair that I had everything that I needed, because I won't go into that whole story, but the first vendor fair I did this year, I forgot a couple of things and had to turn back and run home a couple different times. Everything ended up being fine. The day went amazing. But what I forgot was that by the end of that day, I reached the end of my receipt book, which I need because some people pay in cash, and also just even for the people who do pay in credit card, I still write that down because it just helps me keep track. I'm a Virgo. I have that logical mind, so I like to have things written down and be able to keep track that way. So anyway, I reached the end of that, and I think I even had to make 2 makeshift receipts for people. And I had a couple weeks before this next vendor fair that happened the day after the Law of Assumption training. And do you think I remembered to get a new receipt book? Of course not. It popped into my head a couple times, and each time I ignored that nudge. I'm sure it was an intuitive nudge, and I ignored it and said, I'll go on a different day when it'll be easier to swing by Office Depot specifically because I know they have what I want. And I just completely forgot. So I get all the way to this vendor fair. I take out everything. I get to my receipt book and realize I don't have any receipts. And I don't even have paper that I could use to make any makeshift receipts, which I would be willing to do if it came down to it. So I'm like, okay, I've got to figure out where I can go to get these receipts. So I look up the nearest Office Depot. There's one almost 5 miles away, and it doesn't even open until 10. So I'm like, okay, I have to find somewhere different, hopefully somewhere closer and somewhere that's already open. I already know that Target doesn't have receipt books at all. I've looked, at least in store, and I have no idea if Walmart does. I don't even know if there's a Walmart nearby. So what I do is type in receipt books near me in Google, and CVS pops up. I'm like, okay. So I look up, try to find the nearest one and check in-store availability. And supposedly the nearest one has receipt books. Well, I think I might have been then looking at the wrong one when I actually went to plug in the address into the Maps app. That's the only explanation for what happened. And it took me just up the road. I'm like, oh wow, this is really close. This is super cool. This is going to be awesome. And I'm already starting to think, okay, I always get what I want. I'm going to get there. They're going to have the receipt books. Everything's going to be fine. So it's positive thinking. It's law of attraction, but amplified. Positive thoughts, positive affirmations, not allowing that disbelieving voice in the back of your head to have any room to tell you that, well, it's probably not going to happen. Law of assumption shuts that voice right up. There's no room for it to talk. So I'm heading there, and it's raining outside too, mind you. It's like a really yucky day. And it takes me to the CVS that's inside Target. Well, obviously, this CVS isn't going to have anything extra as far as office supplies. It's just going to be what Target has. But I run inside anyway. I'm like, okay, maybe somewhere in that vicinity, there's going to be some receipt books. Nope, of course not. So I look up the next nearest CVS. I don't remember exactly anymore because this was a few weeks ago, but I swear it said it was only a couple miles away. It was definitely less than 5. It's probably, I think, about 2.5 or so. And it's getting close to 10. It's like 9:53 at this point. So I'm like, okay, well, I have to take this chance. I got to follow this. So it leads me on the freeway. The moment I get on the freeway, I don't know what was different. But all of a sudden, it's almost 5 miles away. And the next exit is the exit that I have to get off to anyway to get to this particular CVS. So there's no point in trying to figure out where I am in relation to Office Depot, because now I'm thinking I should have just gone to Office Depot. If I'm going 5 miles away at this point, I should have just gone to Office Depot. But there's no point in trying to change the GPS because I don't really know exactly where I am anyway at this point. And again, my next exit is the one that's right by CVS anyway, so I may as well just keep heading to CVS. So I reshift my focus at this point. Instead of getting frustrated anymore, I start to think again. I always get what I want. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to get to CVS. They're going to have the receipt books that I need, and everything's going to be fine. I'm going to be a few minutes late getting back to the vendor fair, but everything is still going to be fine. So I get off the freeway. I have about 2 turns to make to get to this CVS. As I'm making the first turn by the stoplight, I notice I'm in kind of a businessy district. And I start to somewhat joke out loud. I wonder if there's an Office Depot around here. Ha ha ha. Thinking, of course there's not going to be an Office Depot around here. I'm still going to CVS. Well, I make the turn. I look up and there is a giant sign right in my face for Office Depot, which is most likely the first one that I looked up anyway. So, of course, I went to Office Depot because now it's 10 o'clock and they're open anyway. But long story short, somehow, in this belief, I always get what I want. What I really wanted were the receipt books from Office Depot. And I got the receipt books from Office Depot. So, I don't know. You can take that however you want. That with or without my mindset shift, I probably still would have ended up finding that Office Depot. But who knows? I really believe that it was me shifting into that energy. Having that belief from the time of trying to get to the first CVS that I always get what I want and that everything's going to be fine. I also did my best to maintain that belief with that sense of detachment from the outcome, not in the egotistic, manipulative control kind of way, but just in sitting back and trusting that things can work out for my highest good and I can align with the things that I want. I also won that same week, that very next week, what would normally have been a very expensive one-on-one session with another spiritual business coach, and I never win those big prizes. I know that's not the right mindset to have either, sitting there thinking, I never win. It really has been the times when I've sat back and wanted it, but also been detached enough from it to not really be bothered if I didn't win it. Those are the times I win things. Random story, I had this very random intuitive nudge at one giveaway where we could see what the prizes were going to be on this table. There were some other things that I wanted more, but all of a sudden something popped into my head as I'm looking at this gift certificate for a Mexican restaurant years ago, and something spoke up in me and was like, I'm going to end up winning that one. And it was kind of a defeatist because it was the one I wanted the least, but I'm going to end up winning that one. And I freaking won that one. And I didn't even really want it. But there was detachment there from the outcome. I didn't start getting attached like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to win this. I really want this now. No, I kind of really didn't want it. So take that one how you will. It's that somehow aligning with that frequency one way or another, despite your human self, having that spiritual level of trust, but also detachment that helps bring that to reality for your highest good. So I hope this is making sense. This is the part of the chakra, the whole crown chakra, that is the most difficult to talk about in a logical way. There's always going to be some stuff that just doesn't make sense logically. So real quick, I wanted to mention too, so this is where, and I'm probably saying it, I've heard this pronounced different ways. I've always thought of it being pineal gland, but I think people have also said pineal gland. It's Pineal. So however you want to pronounce it. This is the gland that is ruled by your crown chakra. And it regulates a lot of things. It's not just your spiritual connection. It says it regulates, so this is in the complete book of chakra healing. It says it regulates the use of tryptophan to produce hormones that regulate sleep, appetite, emotions, circadian rhythms, body temperature, consciousness, and mystical and psychic experiences. And I'm just going to read this to you here. So this is the author saying this. She says, I've come to believe that the pineal gland is supposed to be our master organ, regulating not only our physical but also our spiritual well-being. At birth, it retains our connection to the divine. So in a sense, this is always open, but it can become blocked. And it can be awakened at any time. So I think I stopped reading to you a long time ago the age range that each of the chakras are supposed to be activated at. But this is the last one, yet it can also kind of be awakened anytime. And then there's also, this book goes on to explain that there's cycles where the chakras like reawaken and go through a whole like separate process, and this cycle repeats over and over again. There's a lot. This is a big book, so we're not diving into all of that by any means. But it says, if a child is not supported in his or her unique identity, the pineal gland might become coated with heavy metals such as mercury, aluminum, cadmium as a protection. These metals actually prevent the spiritual awakening that is supposed to begin at age 13 and can cause health problems later in life, including depression and insomnia. And then during menopause, both genders are supposed to shift their hormone regulatory functions from the sexual glands and the pituitary gland to the pineal. So this is probably during one of the other cycles where everything kind of reactivates, reawakens, thus activating a cascade of hormone changes which advance our consciousness and promote physical healing. And the problems that can show up can be immune system disorders, cancers, bone disorders, nervous system disorders, all problems relating to the pineal gland, which operates as the psychic attunement and purpose center and as an immune system regulator. So here, purpose center. So if you're struggling to get in alignment or take action on your purpose, it could be that there's a block in your crown chakra. It can also bring up learning disorders or difficulties, schizophrenia, multiple personality disorder, neurosis or psychosis, major depression, headaches, dizziness or lightheadedness, dissociation or being ungrounded, imbalance of any type, lack of self-understanding, lack of direction. Addictions may involve overcommitment to a religious or spiritual group or its dogma, over or under eating, and the compulsive use of prayer or meditation, as in becoming over-reliant on that sort of thing, not trusting yourself, and or the overcommitment, I take that to mean the overcommitment to a religious or spiritual group or its dogma, giving away your power to whatever outside forces are telling you rather than trusting your own intuition. So there's a lot that shows up as a result of a blocked crown chakra that can also feel like abandonment from God, disconnection from God. And we can reawaken this, we can reopen this chakra any time. It's going to be at its best when the other chakras are open as well, of course, but this is available to us all the time, at any time. So I don't know, if we're feeling depression, if we're feeling confused, if we're feeling disconnected, I really do think we need to simultaneously look within, but also learn to trust that we are always connected and we can always tap into that connection rather than looking only to physical solutions. This has gone on a long time, hasn't it? That was a long section of storytelling that I told you. But the last thing I want to cover here, it says, back to the book of chakra healing. Unlike the arrogant, self-centered, egocentric, gurus accept how little they know and trust that their connection to their higher self will always provide the right answer or pathway. These individuals radiate an inner calm that comes from a total acceptance of who, not what, they truly are. First lesson in my Reiki masterclass was to remember that a Reiki master, and essentially really all of us, we know nothing. So in acquiring all of this knowledge, understanding that we still likely don't fully understand everything. The more we understand, the more there is to understand, if that makes sense. And this total acceptance of who, not what we truly are. It's not denying our humanness in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that serves us. I think that harms us. But who we really are, let me go back to a book that I don't think I've mentioned in a long time. Conversations with God. Who we really are. Every time that phrase is brought up in that book, it is capitalized. It is important. Because who we really are is a literal piece of God. We are always and ultimately connected to God. That is how we have the ability to create our own reality, because we're co-creating with this connection to God all the time. And that also defines what our purpose is. Our purpose is to create who we really are, who we want to be. And there's a whole separate discussion there. And I've gone into some of this before. But that's why we are supposed to decide what our morals are, what our values are, what kind of person we are, how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people. Our purpose really is to create. To, I don't care how cheesy this sounds, to let our light shine, because we are light. We are light beings. We are divine beings. And I was even listening to the Model Health show just recently. Scientifically proven that we are made of ingredients of the cosmos. We're not just in the universe. We are not just part of the universe. We are made up of the universe. We are the universe. We are God in that sense. We are pieces of God. In Conversations with God, it says that God wanted to not just know who he was, but experience who he was. And that's what we're here doing. It all needs to be done from a place of divinely sourced love. That's the goal, and a whole separate discussion. But when you have a truly open crown chakra, a journey we are always on, it's not like one day we awaken our crown chakra and we've reached boss level and now we're going to go back home. That's not how it works. We're always evolving. We're always learning more. We are always coming to new understandings of ourselves and new understandings of the world and how we interact with people around us, how we want to express who we are, what we want to create in this world. True success, like we were saying, can involve the material, but it has a balance of spiritual success and detachment from all the things and all the outcomes. There's understanding that you have control, but you're co-creating, and that you don't need to control every tiny little detail. So rather than continue to repeat myself too much, I think that's where I'll wrap it up. I also have some things I need to hurry up and get done because I was not expecting to talk. I've been recording for 45 minutes. I think I have a little bit of dead air and some repetition to trim out, but for the most part, most of this is going to be here. I did not expect to talk. I thought this was going to be like 15 or 20 minutes. So I got to hurry up now. So anyway, I do want to invite you to my newest free challenge called The Fire Within, which is going to be taking place in June, specifically June 12th, 13th, and 15th. And it's mostly that way just because of my schedule. We have swim lessons on Wednesdays, so rather than try to rush, I figured I'll just skip a day. So we have different topics to cover on each day. This is a completely free challenge. Like I said, it's called The Fire Within, and it is meant to help you spark your creativity, reignite your intuition, and light your purpose up. So this is the next step. It's not just embracing your weird, it's figuring out who you are, who you want to be, how to start becoming that person now, connecting again with your intuition because it's still there. You can always reconnect to it. You can always open your crown chakra. You can always open your third eye, reconnect to your intuition, pick up on your intuitive signals. And by figuring out who you really are, you figure out what your purpose really is, and you can become grounded enough to feel safe, to take the action you need to take, to let your creativity flow, to trust your intuition, and to start moving forward instead of staying stuck. We are going to talk about so much. I'm probably going to get uber passionate in all of these sessions that we're going to do. I haven't determined all of the prizes, but there's going to be some prizes, some giveaways for those who are either there live or you come back and interact with the replays. So I'm really excited for this. I hope that you'll join me. You can use the link in the show notes. The forthcoming link that I hope to get up and running is going to be the easy one, carriejocala.com/fire. If that's not ready though, please do go to the link in the show notes because it's a really long, jumbled up link full of random numbers and letters at the moment until I'm able to change it and connect it directly to my website. But otherwise, you can access it by just clicking on the link in the show notes or going to my Instagram or Inside the Energy Within Facebook group and finding the link there and signing up. Like I said, it's completely free. I hope that you'll join me. I hope that you will invite your friends. If you join, you'll get a graphic to share on either your Instagram or your Facebook. Go ahead and share that to invite your friends. And feel free to tag me, particularly on Instagram, which is I am Carrie Jocala. Please also feel free to share these episodes with your social media, with your friends, with your family. And if you feel so called, to leave a rating and a review, ideally a 5-star rating and a positive review. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.